introduce our speaker, Rabbi Simon Jacobson. I'm co-hosting this along with Mrs. Carly Namdar, our Director of Middle School Guidance, who's done so much and continues to do so much for us in these challenging times for our entire student body, really, as our parents and families as well. Just so all the listeners out there or watchers know a little bit about Rabbi Jacobson. His bio is very, very long. I'm just going to, though, read a couple of parts of it. It's a credit to you, Rabbi. Rabbi Simon Jacobson is the author of the best-selling book, Toward a Meaningful Life, which is all about the wisdom and teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. The book has sold over 400,000 copies, and it's been translated into a host of languages. If I read them all, that would take a few minutes. Rabbi Jacobson now leads the Meaningful Life Center, which bridges the secular and spiritual through a wide variety of live and online programming. For over 14 years, Rabbi Jacobson was responsible for publishing the talks of the late Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He is known to be one of the greatest scholars and sought-after speakers in the Jewish world today, and is, of course, for that reason that we are very, very grateful to be hosting him here for us to talk about this important topic, socially distant and socially distant, soulfully close. I really want to credit Mrs. Carly Namdar for coming up with the idea to have Rabbi Jacobson, and without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to him. Do be aware this is a webinar format, so while we can't hear you or see you, we can see questions that are posted in the Q&A. The way this is going to work is Rabbi Jacobson is going to speak for about 25, 30 minutes. He is going to be paying attention to some of the questions, but in the end, there will be an opportunity for some ongoing Q&A that we will moderate. Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacobson.
Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you, Carly, for making this happen. I want to just begin first and foremost. I think the most important thing was with bracha, a blessing, and prayer. Number one, that you are all well and healthy, you and your families. When I mean that, I mean healthy physically, as well as psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. And let's say we could even say this is in merit of us and schus of a refuah shlema, v'kreva, complete recovery to all of those that are suffering. Some are in bad situation. And Eibishter should be Reifachel Yisrael. I'm sorry about that. Reifachel Yisrael, and protect all the rest of us and our families. And that, I think, is the single most important thing of all. Look, these are extraordinary times. It may be that we will never have another event like this in our lifetime. The fact that it's affected not just a community, but the entire world. We're talking about 8 billion people. And every sector of society, literally everything, is unprecedented. Who would have expected? If you would have said something like this 2 months ago, people would laugh. And everything was going so smoothly. We were secure. We had our Pesach plans. We had our travel plans. Everything was so seemingly reliable and dependent. And here we are, literally everything upended, disrupted. People are rattled. And in addition to the health concerns, we're dealing with an economic challenges, a lot of layoffs. People don't know where the future is going to lie. How long is this going to last? And I think maybe the most debilitating element is unknown, the suffix, the unknown. Is it going to be a week? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be 3 months? And unknowns really have a way of demoralizing us. And I'm not here to obviously emphasize the bad news. We all know what's going on. I'm emphasizing it for a reason. Because I too, just like yourselves, grew up in free America, where, thank God, as opposed to our grandparents and great-grandparents who had to deal with the Holocaust and the tragedies and the persecutions, we are living in a free world. And our comforts were pretty much, as I said, secure. And here suddenly we're thrust into a situation that is challenging us literally in every possible way. First of all, our own psyches and our own self-assurance, our self-reliance, our relationship with our children who are seeing it all and witnessing it. We're all quarantined in a thing that was like unheard of. We're not commuting, we're not traveling. I mean, all of us, everyone had Pesach plans. Either you were traveling somewhere or people were traveling to you. Like everything has suddenly, like many people are saying, I feel completely out of control. And yet, I want to say this. If anybody knows how to rise to the occasion in a time like this, it's us, the Jewish people. We're here for 3,800 years, from Avram Avinu. And we've gone through every possible challenge, whether it's the bondage and the slavery and the genocide of Mitzrayim and Egypt that we're about to celebrate, whether it's the story of Purim, the story of Hanukkah, the destruction of this first temple by the Babylonians, the second by the Romans, and in between the Persians and the Greeks. And then we had to deal with the Ottoman Empire and the Spanish Empire, inquisitions and crusaders and pogroms. I mean, the Middle Ages. I don't have to list every expulsion and every and genocide and Holocaust that we've gone through. And what has happened with us as a nation? We've become greater and stronger in the process. And I'm not comparing tragedies now. Every tragedy is its own sort. But we're not untrained for this moment. The only thing is we're not accustomed to it. We've become so used to our comforts and our freedoms and our prosperity, frankly, that we're just not used to this situation. But we are completely been trained by our history to absolutely know how to deal with this. I'll just use a verse in Chumash that's connected to Pesach, right in the beginning of Shmois. What does it say there? It says, Kashiyanu Esam, as the Jews were oppressed, Ken Yirba v'chen Yifritz. In direct proportion to their oppression, they thrived and they flourished. They didn't just survive. They didn't just endure. They thrived and they flourished. I just read an article last week, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, that says at cataclysmic events, we have to learn from the Jews. They became a great nation from their cataclysms. The question is how? What is the formula? No other empire far larger than the Jewish people, with more money, with more armies, with in every possible way stronger, did not survive. And here we are, barely 14.5 million Ken Yirbu, 0.1%. And we have not just survived, but we have thrived and we have risen in society as leaders, as innovators, that is recognized by everyone. So let's talk a minute about that formula, something that perhaps that we don't really focus on enough, because when things are good, why should we? Everything is smooth. Now this is the time. And I have to say, I mean, the Hashgacha Pratis, the divine providence that this is happening, literally it began around Purim time and leading us into Pesach. I mean, these are the two biggest events of almost total annihilation of the Jewish people. Total. And especially Pesach, we're dealing with plagues. And what happens? Not only do we survive, we come out greater, as I just said. So there are tremendous lessons to be learned from Purim, but I'm going to focus on Pesach, because that's the presenting. Within 2 weeks, we'll be honoring Pesach. So we all know the Maimer Chazal. Chazal tell us, B'chol der v'doyer, and some add B'chol yem v'yem. In every generation, and every day, Chayev Adam, a person is responsible to see himself, Liris Asatzme Ki'iluhu Yotzom Mitzrayim, to envision as if he left Mitzrayim. In every generation, every day, which is why every day we mention more than once what happened Yetzias Mitzrayim, Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. So many mitzvahs, so many prayers are all connected. And of course, once a year, Pesach. But let me ask you this. Many of us never been to Egypt. How could you envision that? It's one thing to say, remember the events that happened, commemorate them, recreate them, but none of us have ever been to Mitzrayim. So how is one supposed to envision leaving Egypt? So Hasidic thought explains, because the word Mitzrayim is much more than a land, a geographical location. The word Mitzrayim comes from the word Meitzar. It means constraint, boundary, limitation. It's referring to every possible inhibition, psychological, emotional, or spiritual, that inhibits, that constrains us, that impedes our way, our forward progress, our ability to spread our wings. Fear, insecurity, you fill in the blanks. So if you really think about it, in a way, 3,332 years ago, we left Mitzrayim. I counted. It's actually that amount of time. Every year, the Jews have been celebrating Pesach. You know something? This year, we can, for the first time, when the children ask, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh, it's not just lip service. It's not just that we dip the karpas and chareses, or we recline and eat matzah and morer. The 4 questions. All of our lives is ishtana. Everything is different now. It's all different than it was a month ago, 2 months ago. So in many ways, I want to suggest that we can celebrate a Pesach that perhaps has never been celebrated in all of history, because we can actually apply it to real situation. We have a real Mitzrayim in our hands. It's not in the form of Egyptian slave labor, but it's in the form of fear, of uncertainty, in the forms of the concerns we have, the unknowns. That's also Mitzrayim. So we can use the Pesach Seder and the Hachanas, the preparations we make for it, as actually an opportunity for us to teach us and our children and our families how we become an emancipated people. How do we get out of Mitzrayim? How do we free ourselves from it? And that brings us back to the formula. So we're all going to be saying in the Haggadah, and as I said, in less than 2 weeks, that classic prayer, that classic statement that we sing, different songs, everyone has their customs. V'hi she'amda lanu. V'hi she'amda lanu. Lavisenu. That what? That she. It's in a vague feminine version. V'hi. Something helped us endure in every generation. B'chol dor v'dor oimdim aleinu l'chalasenu. In every generation we had enemies, adversaries that challenged us and wanted l'chalisenu to destroy us. And Kadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam, and God protected and saved us from their hands. So we can say that this year in a completely new way. We have a plague on our hands. We have an epidemic, a pandemic. It's called coronavirus. A little microbe, completely invisible, has completely changed the world. Got everybody's attention. People are fearful, panicky, hysterical even. Yet we have a tool that we have developed over history, and that tool is called Amunah, faith. And that tool is called the promise that God gave us, that no matter what happens in your life, I am always with you. So we're not here to explain, and we don't ever understand the events that are happening now. We don't know God's mysterious ways. Why did he have to do it this way? Why do people have to die? Why do others have to suffer? Why do we all have to have the aggravation and the disruption? But one thing we know, that we may not control what's going on around us, but you control completely what's going on inside you. It's like we can navigate, and we have navigated through history. So what is our secret formula? Is that, yes, we listen to medical authorities, we listen to the health professionals, we listen to Rabbanim, they're telling us, stay home, quarantine, there's no playing games. Tell you the same God that said, go to a minyan, the same God that said, go to mikveh, the same God that said to do other many things, the same God said, you listen to the doctor. And as a matter of fact, we have plagues and epidemics that happened in the past, and the greatest go'enim, whether you have Rabbi Akiva Eger, and the Middle Ages, you have the Ramah, you have many who speak clearly, Asugya and Baba Kama, if you want to look it up, the Gemara Baba Kama, 60b, Daf Samach Hamad Beis, talks exactly about an epidemic, that if an epidemic happens in the city, you have to either run away, and if you can't run away, you have to quarantine yourself to protect you and others. And the Ramah adds, do not rely on miracles. Yes, there are times we rely on miracles. We don't rely on miracles because God works through natural means. And this time he wants us to stay home. And you celebrate at home. And we even have a pasuk for it in Pesach as well. What does it say the night of Pesach? The night, Leil Chamisha Asar B'Nisan, when God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I am now, after 86 years of a bitter, God-forsaken hell that they went through, I will redeem you. We will leave the nation of Israel will leave Mitzrayim. Then Hashem says to Moshe, that night there will be a plague. After the 9 plagues comes the 10th plague, Makas B'cheres. And then there's this verse. This verse has never resonated more than today. It says, Va'atem, and you, the Jewish people, Moshe speaking in the name of God to the Jews, Va'atem, lo yiseitzu ish me Pesach beisei, ad boiker. You do not leave the door of your home until the morning. And in the morning, the next morning, in the afternoon, is when the Jews marched out of Mitzrayim. Now, you may think the Jews cowered in fear, and they were like terrified of what's happening out there. Yes, there was a Magefa, but they were not terrified. They were celebrating Pesach. They were bringing the Korban Pesach, and they were celebrating with their families. Now, how do you balance that paradox? Because they knew God is there. And whatever reason, there is an epidemic. That's not the place to be right now out there. And tomorrow will be the redemption. For us, the boiker may take a few more days, but we're confident as we've been over 3,800 years. Well, if you're a skeptic and you were back then, you could say, who knows, will the Jewish people survive? But today, in retrospect, there's no question like that. We went through everything, the worst of the worst. I once heard from Elie Wiesel. I once asked him, I was friendly with him before he passed away. I asked him, is it true when the Jews were in the concentration camps that often when they were marched to the gas chambers, they would sing Ani Maimen, that I believe in with complete faith in the coming of Mashiach? And he said to me, we were in the barracks. We were not close to there. They didn't let us be close, so we wouldn't know what's happening. We knew what was happening, but they kept us from a distance. But I can tell you in the barracks, every day, we heard Kaddish, Shema, other prayers, Ani Maimen, other songs, on an ongoing basis. So I said, with all respect, Professor Wiesel, I'm a spoiled American boy. Explain this to me. This was God completely concealed himself from the Jewish people. It was the darkest moment in Jewish history. Innocent Jews, because they were Jews, were being massacred. Where was God? They could have claimed, God, we're your people. They're killing us because we're your people. Why aren't you here for us? They had all the right to be angry, and instead they're singing God's praises and thanking him. Is Kaddish Shmei Rabbah. God's name is great, sanctified. And he said something to me. I said, isn't that insane? It's like insane. It sounds like crazy, like a denial, escapism. And he said this to me that I've heard from others. He said, first of all, we all knew Jews are insane, so that's not a surprise. But he said the following. He said the Jews were not in denial. They were not escaping. They were making the biggest declaration in all of time. They were saying, you can take our bodies, but you can't take our souls. You can take our lives, but you can't take our faith. And if it won't be us, it'll be our children. And if it won't be our children, it'll be our grandchildren. We will prevail. We will prevail. And we did prevail, yes, at a great price. Today, look, 70 years, 80 years later in Berlin, all those that have Nazi parents and grandparents have changed their names. They're hiding their identities. And Jews are walking around Berlin, not today in the streets because of the challenges, but you see Jews walking around keeping Shabbos. Go to Hanukkah, to the Brandenburg Gate, where Yamach Shemai v'Zichrei, Hitler, stood with his hundreds of thousands of his Jugendrat, of the masses that he incited against the Jews. What's standing now at the Brandenburg Gate on Hanukkah? You know what? Right there where he stood, a Hanukkah menorah. I was there. I asked the rabbi, how'd you pull that off? A Hanukkah menorah right there, and the Christmas trees on the side. He says, I convinced the curator that for the choreography, it looks really nice to have the menorah in the center and the trees on the sides. That's an aside. So the point being is, in the harshest and every possible situation, we always believed the neshama is stronger than the guf. Our soul are stronger than our bodies. What do you think is the story of Pesach? Every detail of Pesach is about transcendence. That's what Yetzias Mitzrayim means, pass over. We transcend our circumstances. So just a short few weeks ago, we thought we had it all under control. I had my job, I'm commuting, there's my children going to school, I had my Pesach plans, travel plans, summer plans, the restaurants we were going to, the games we may have begun to, the different entertainment. Everybody had their plan. And suddenly, you know what we've discovered? Our plans don't mean anything. We're not in control of our circumstances. Only one entity is in control, it's God. What the Jews knew in Mitzrayim, what they knew during Purim, what they knew during the Holocaust, we suddenly have been forced to face this reality. So on one hand, it's very upsetting. It's very overwhelming. It's It's very challenging because it is unnerving that all the things we depended on and relied on are not there for us. Our security blankets, our comfort zones are not there. But let's dig a little deeper. We're the Am Yisrael Chai. We're the Jewish nation. Individually and collectively, we have in our genes everything we need for a time like this. To dig deeper, to transcend the circumstances, and realize, yes, we don't control where we will be and what the situation will be outside of us, but we control our attitude. We have the full fortitude. But you need to have that. You need to access your neshama. And it could very well be many of us have forgotten a little, even though I'm sure we daven and we say every morning, that you thank you for returning my soul to me. And we know soulful things, but let's be honest. Many of us take that for granted. It's lip service. It's mechanical. Now, we can't rely on mechanical. Now we have to actually think closely and be very introspective. I just heard from how many people have I spoken to in the last few weeks, by phone, by Zoom, whatever. People who are very materialistic. And, came to my classes who I have met in different circumstances. One person who used to always tell me, stop talking to me about the soul. I have no time for that. Right now, I'm busy making money, building a business. You come to me after I'm retired. He called me last week and says to me, you know something? All I have right now is my inner life. My outer life is gone. Now, we, the Jewish people, this is something we've always had. It's in our genes. So what I'm suggesting here, that despite the chaos going on around us, there's a certain inner peace that we can turn to, especially in this time, especially as Pesach comes. And manishtana, yes, manishtana halayla zeh. You know how it's different? It's different. Materialism is right now, has no power. All the security blankets, all the things that we thought we can rely on have no power. That's why it's nishtana. But that shouldn't frighten us, because we've been there and we have resources. We have deeper inner resources. And I'll speak about some practical suggestions shortly. I just wanted to lay this out because I think context is critical here. Context is critical. It's a long narrative, history. We don't control our narrative. There's an expression, Hashem mitzadi gover kenanu. God leads the footsteps of a human being. God leads the footsteps. You may think you have plans, and you decide you're going to travel here, you're going to go here, you're going to commute there. God leads the footsteps of a person. What you do with those footsteps is completely in our control. God has chosen right now, He wants us to be home. He wants us to be local. He doesn't want us in public gatherings. Pesach is going to be an internal experience. That's what He wants. Why He wants it, I can assure you, with all my credentials, I cannot speak for God. I don't know. This is God's mysterious ways. That's what He wants. Maybe He wants to remind us of something. Maybe it's a wake-up call. We all pray to God that do it, please, in a peaceful way, in a healthy way. But this is what God wants. Surrendering to that fact is not weakness. It's strength. Acknowledging our vulnerability is strength. It's not weakness. You know why? Because we're always vulnerable. You think 2 months ago we weren't vulnerable and fragile? We just had the illusion of control. We thought everything is working out. We had the illusion of control. It wasn't real control. I'll share with you a story. Moses Montefiore, the great philanthropist, the great Baal Tzedakah, lived in England, and he built Montefiore Hospital. A lot of Jerusalem was built by him in the 18th century, 19th century. He was close with Queen Victoria of England. Listen to this. Queen Victoria says to him one day, Sir Moses, what is your net worth? She wanted to know. He says, I'll get back to you. I have to calculate. He comes back to her. And he says, Your Majesty, I'll tell you. And he gives her a number. She says to him, Sir Moses, you mock me. I personally know that your holdings and value and net worth is 10 times, 100 times what you just said. He said, no, Your Majesty, you got it wrong. You asked me what I'm worth. What you're talking about, what I have in my bank account, what investments I have, all that is temporary. Any investment, any money I have right now can be confiscated by you. It could be lost in a war. There could be an epidemic. It could be a bad investment. I don't own that. I don't own that. You know what I own? The money I gave away to tzedakah, the money I gave to charity, the hospitals I built, the people I've helped, institutions and organizations I've helped. You know why? That nobody could ever take away. That is now permanent. Whatever it achieves in the world will be permanent. Think of the insight of that. That's a Yiddish cup. He understood the real power Real power does not come from material possession. Yes, God should bless everyone with ashiris, with wealth, and with all the comforts and all the possessions. But if you think security comes from there, security comes from God. And we've been spoiled. Let's be honest, we've been spoiled. It's interesting, when Jews were persecuted through history, assimilation was almost 0%. It's when emancipation took place and we became free and comfortable, we became more apathetic. And I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not blaming anyone. We all want these blessings, but blessings we take it for granted. How many of us had to ask the question, hey, what am I ready to fight for? We didn't have to fight for anything. There were no wars. Thank God we're blessed with a haven like United States. Eretz Yisrael is a renaissance. We can be as frum as we want. We can send our children to any school. No one's going to arrest us for having a class now together. All that is a distant history. So we took our blessings for granted. It's always good to be a little light. Let me just share a little light humor. They got up in the Knesset. They had a meeting. And one Jew gets up. He says, I have a solution to all our problems with the Arab neighbors. Instead of fighting with the Arabs, why don't we attack America, United States of America? And of course, they'll beat us. And then out of guilt, they'll rebuild us as they did Japan and Germany after World War II. Instead of getting $10 billion a year, we'll have $100 billion. A brilliant Jewish idea, right? One old Jew gets up and says, very nice idea. But what happens if we win? What happens if the Jews win? We are great at playing defense. We're great at surviving. But then comes a situation, what's our vision for the world? And you know what? I would suggest that this situation we're in is we're thrust now into the place that our forefathers and our matriarchs, our patriarchs have been here. And they taught us the formula. And the formula is that our neshamas are stronger than ever. We can be quarantined. You mentioned socially distant, but soulfully close. I wouldn't probably never have met many of you had we not had the coronavirus situation. Here we have a Zoom discussion. We can talk about ideas that matter, the values of the Jewish people, what keeps us strong. So there are many opportunities that we have now, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Yes, we didn't want this. It would have been better to just have it regular, but that's what Hashem wants. He wants doesn't want us to go out of our homes right now. So we have now the opportunity, and we have to learn to adjust for the time being. So I want to make some practical suggestions, because we're all, as I said, quarantined. We're all in a situation where we are going to be with our families. It can create a lot of frustration. Like someone just told me, a couple called me the other day, and they said to me, you know what, we were already a very stressful life, and now we're all day together. What do we do? So I said, you know what, you rise to the occasion. Maybe it's time to stop being petty, and maybe it's time to rise to the occasion. So I want to make a few suggestions that address how to connect to Pesach, to our families, to each other in this special, unique time. And using Pesach as the model for this. So let's go back to the idea of fortitude. Here's number one opportunity. The first opportunity we have now is we have time. We have more time. We recognize the fragility and the impermanence of material life. So the first thing is to be more neshamadik. First thing is to be more soulful. I mentioned moda'ani. Everybody says moda'ani. Maybe it's time to say it with a new kavanah. Thank you. We don't even mention God's name right in the morning. Thank you for returning my soul to me. Let me translate that into if you wish, a meditation. But you can adapt it anyway. Something we can do ourselves and with our children every morning. We wake up in the morning and let's do it together. We all have time. No one's running to work. Let's say neshama. What's neshama? Neshama means that Hashem created the soul in the divine image, B'Tselem Elokim. So you, my child, and we could say this to ourselves, I am a divine ambassador. God chose me to come to this world. We're not here by accident. We're here for a reason, to live up to a spiritual mission in our lives. No business can function without a mission statement. Neither can you as a person. So let's talk about what is our mission? Why are we here? Why are we sent to this world? This is an opportunity. There was a time people would say to make money, to be happy, to bring up a healthy family, but it's deeper than that. We were sent, as we know, the Pasuk says in Chumash, La'avda l'shamra, to serve and to protect. Or I'll use another Pasuk. Right after Mitzrayim, what happened? V'asili migdash v'shachanti b'seicha. To build out of this physical material world a divine sanctuary. And that begins in the home. A migdash ma'at is not just a shul and a beis medrash. It's not just a synagogue. You can make your home into a sacred place. You have a siddur, you have a chumash, you have a tzedakah pushka, a charity box. By sanctifying your home, you turn it into a mini microcosm of a temple. So Moed Ani takes on a whole meaning. Here we are at home now. We have a holy, sacred soul. That's, yes, it's invisible, but it's interesting. I find that when people start talking to their children about the soul, children are very intrigued. They have imagination, and they start saying, what's a neshama? A neshama is essentially God telling you that you're indispensable and you have a unique mission. And now we have a special mission, how not to be affected by all that's going on around us. So when our children say, but people are dying, yes, we'll pray for them. We pray for ourselves. But people are hurt and they're scared. Here's the opportunity of a lifetime. Whatever you do today in 2020 will shape your children forever. If children see us as parents, like cowering in fear, or being very, very edgy, and so on, that will teach them something. But if they see that we rise to the occasion, and we hold we maintain our composure, and we say, you know what, the Jews have been through challenges, and we're coming to Pesach, and we hold on to God's promise, we hold on to our faith, we have beautiful neshamas. There's a lot of things we can do today. We can be kinder people, gentler people, more loving, and do it in a deliberate way. To me, this is the only answer to what was going on. Because any type of defensive measures of like how to protect yourself from what's going on, yes, health-wise, that's what we have to do. But psychologically, I see the people that are able to manage, more than manage, are the people that are doing something to serve others. Anyone sitting at home now that is fretting and saying, oi, look how terrible it is. What's going to be? When will this end? When you're consumed with those thoughts, they're quite overwhelming. I see those that get on the phone or text or within their own family say, who can I help? Maybe I could put in a call to someone I haven't spoken to in a long time. Maybe someone that even I had a falling out with. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Though this is the opportunity, the time to demonstrate the offense is the best defense. To serve, be of service in some way. Obviously, we're talking about with all the cautions necessary, not anything that's reckless, God forbid. Show more love. Show more courage. I mentioned before the program that I gave a session to high school students last week and this week. And one of the questions they asked me was, what do we do when we get on each other's nerves? My parents are getting on my nerves, or I'm getting on their nerves, and we're all in close quarters. What do we do? So I said, you know what you do? If you feel frustrated, go into a private room, call your friend, vent. God forbid that you should take it out at this time. We're in a crisis right now. And then when you relax, go back and hug your mother. I don't know if hugging is allowed, but demonstrate love. How can I help for Pesach? I think this goes both ways, parents to children and children to parents. If we just compose ourselves and don't let ourselves get affected by the moment, by pausing, stepping back, we can then reflect and say, look how beautiful. God blessed me with children. God blessed me with a family. Yes, he wants us now to be together. Let me find ways to be more connected with my children. Do you know how many parents I've heard from that said, you know, I don't even know my child that well. I have nannies, go off to school. Yeah, we have Shabbos and so on, weekends. I'm really getting to know my child. Suggestion number 2, I don't know if it's in numbers, but let me say this. Every child, and every adult for that matter, has talents. We all have skills and talents. Here's a time to develop a talent. Your child may be very good at musical, creative, other projects. Some people are very cerebral. Why is this not a time that we can do a project together? You know, greatest innovations came in times of crisis. Just to use lahavdil, an example from Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, you know where the theory of gravity and calculus was born? During the bubonic plague, and he was quarantined, had a lot of time to think. And by the Jewish people, we've had similar. The Chidah, the famous Chidah, wrote his classic book, Sefer, Shem HaGdolim, during a quarantine in Livorno, in Italy, of all places. And so on and so forth. Rashi, the commentary of Rashi, the commentary of Ramban, you know where they were written? Under duress. There were pogroms in the streets. They weren't living in calm. You know, when you read Rashi, you could think he was sitting on a beachfront property and sitting and writing a commentary. No. There was blood in the streets. There were attacks. But they were able to enter a neshama zone, an oasis. So I would say, as Pesach is coming, let's prepare. Let's make a Pesach like we've never made before. You know, we know what Pesach is about. We cook the foods, we prepare the Pesach Seder, but this is a real manishtana halayla hazeh. It's new. Now, we don't have to think about work. We don't have to think about other distractions. There's no external entertainment. Everything is going to come internal. So why not make it a project? Sit down with your kids tomorrow or any day and say, Pesach is coming in 10 days. Let's be creative. Let's think of Kaddish. Let's think of Urchatz. Maybe each of the 15 steps of the Seder, let each child come up with an idea. Show them and encourage them to be creative. How can we use this 15 steps to counter the negative experiences? Remember, Kaddish at the end of the day, just to give an example, I'm actually creating a program now of 15 steps with music to do exactly that. What is Kaddish? We sanctify God's name over a cup of wine. That's how the Seder begins. But Kaddish comes from the word separate, separation. Hey, aren't they telling us to be separate? But separate can be a negative separate. You know, stay away from others because you can harm them, they can harm you. But separate could also be unique. We're separating the holy from the profane. We're entering into the Pesach zone, sitting around with a family, fresh. You think we can experience freedom even today? You just have to work at it. You can't allow the toxins. And when I say toxins, I don't just mean of the virus. I mean even the psychological toxins to enter your table. You make a commitment with you and your spouse, make a commitment, and with your children and whoever else is there with you. We're going to celebrate freedom. There was a time the Jews were quarantined when there was a magefa, an epidemic out in the street, but they celebrated within. We're going to sing. We're going to tell stories. We're going to be creative. We're going to do it in ways that we never did before because before we took it for granted. I'm sure Pesach has always been special, but this can really be extraordinary. I can assure you, you make a Pesach like that, your children will never forget it. You won't forget it. So we have a real opportunity here. Now you'll say, I'm so overwhelmed with what's going on. I'm following the news, the press conferences, etc., etc. You know what? Maybe you should shut down the news. We know more or less what the instructions are. Stay home, stay away from others, be careful, protect yourself, your families, and others. We know that. We know it's not going away tomorrow. I mean, Hashem could do that and Hashem should do that. But right now, b'derech hateva, natural means it's right here. So our response is very straightforward. We turn inward and we say, let's control what I could control. Let's not focus on that. We're not going to talk about the coronavirus, about COVID-19 and all its implications. We're going to talk about our souls. We all have a neshama. Pesach is coming. Pesach teaches us how to transcend soul over body, how to be more loving, how to be kinder, and how to use the Pesach Seder literally as instruments for emancipation. At the end of the day, Yitzias Mitzrayim. I'll give another example. Let's take the Haggadah, Magid. What is Magid? The name of the Haggadah itself. Tell the story. What story do we tell? It starts with Heilach Ma'anya, then we say Manishtano, questions, and then Avodim Ayinu. We were servants, we were slaves to Pari Mitzrayim, and we're supposed to recreate that, as I mentioned before. We're supposed to envision. So why don't we get our children and ourselves to ask, what's the Mitzrayim of our lives? Make a list. What do you think is a Mitzrayim in our day and age, Pesach 2020? I am sure we could include fear, uncertainty. I don't know what my summer plans will be. And then you can say, okay, let's tell the story. Let's share the story. We have concerns, but then we are told, Vayetziyenu, Hashem took us out of it. And we know in the past we were redeemed. As I mentioned, B'chol dar v'dar, Kaddish Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. You can literally take the story of the Haggadah and make it our story and narrative today. That's what Maggid is. We tell the story. We express ourselves. Yes, we express also that Avodah Me'inu, that the beginning was not a good story, but the narrative doesn't end. The narrative ends in a beautiful way. And this narrative will end in a beautiful way. And we will become greater people and stronger people and more powerful people. I want to make one or more a few points, and then we're going to go to questions. How's that sound? Good? Okay. I think it's very important because I see a few people have told me that they stay home, they languish in bed, they don't get dressed. You know, they're like in that type of mode. I think it's very important for our own dignity and for our own demeanor and our own self-respect, and especially for our families. Get dressed, shower, make believe you're going out and going to have a big party. Because even physical small things like that send messages. Now, I'm not saying you want to sleep a little extra, fine, no problem. I'm not getting into that. But overall, create an environment that's not depressing. It's very easy to become, we're sitting around in the house, nowhere to go. No. You can open a window. I think that's allowed. You can go out on your porch. To create space as much as possible. And again, we need to be creative. And know if we're creative, we'll find ways. We'll find ways. And I'm not saying it's easy. Trust me. My children are not in the house any longer. I'm a grandparent. So it's all through Zoom and Skype. But I know my children, the children are home all day. It's not that easy. But I believe that if we make quality time and we focus, as I mentioned, I just sum up projects that you do with your child. Get them to do the project on their own. There's going to be times of frustration, let's be honest. So you just have to also be on high alert, not to have much more patience. This is a real test of our resilience, of our flexibility, of our ability to, you know what? I'm not going to make a fuss about everything. Don't do what you would have done in the past. Get frustrated, start yelling and screaming. That's not what we need right now. We need us to all rise and be greater people. Will we be perfect? Of course not. But at least be aware. Be cognizant of your own behavior. And if you feel yourself getting very irritated, pull yourself away, go to the side, find a way to vent, find a way to express it. This is now our avodah. This is our service. It's not just self-control. This is what's expected. I have no doubt in my mind that this is probably the most eventful event that will happen. This is the greatest event. This is the most eventful experience that will happen in our lives, barring Mashiach, which we all hope will bring to. And the annals of history will document how we behaved. And I also have no doubt, I'm speaking to comrades, to brothers and sisters who are the Jewish people. We've been here. We've been around. We maybe did not need to dig deeper and get those resources, but Pesach provides every resource you need to experience true freedom. Think about it. Everyone wants freedom. Everyone wants to be free. We want to feel emancipated. We want to feel not trapped. Everything we're talking about, that's what Pesach came to do. Came to free us of our Mitzrayims. So we have a tremendous opportunity that we can look back, and our children, our grandchildren will ask us, so what happened in 2020, March 2020? What did you do? So they say there are three types of people. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who ask what happened. We are a people that always made things happen. We initiated. We didn't wait. We didn't react. And remember this important lesson. You either influence or you will be influenced. You either absorb other people's fears and experiences or you project and influence them. This is the time to become an influencer. We're not spectators. We're not just observant Jews in the context of observing others. That can be terrifying because if you look around, a lot of people are very frightened. This is the time to dig deeper and say, I'm going to be a better person, a better Jew. And I'm going to use Pesach. It's a gift from God. And again, I do not know why God chose to do this suddenly out of the blue. But we do know what we have to do about it. We never ask why God did it, but we ask, what can we do about it? And that's empowering. Because a victim says, What's going to be? What's going to be? You throw up your hands. We're not victims. We have suffered, but we're not sufferers. We've been hurt, but we're not hurt people. Our identities are not defined by our experiences. We must teach that to our children. Whatever's happening now is an experience. It's not you. And it doesn't identify you. What identifies you is the choices you make and how you're going to navigate and how you're going to rise to the occasion and how you're going to allow this challenge to bring out the best in us. Because I'm seeing it already. I see it in myself. I see it in others. We can use this time to reveal dormant strengths that we never thought we had. That's what challenges do. That's what pressure does. Pressure forces you to dig deeper. The Talmud says an olive doesn't produce oil until you press it. Now, obviously, we want pressure in a limited way, and we want it to be in a healthy way. But pressure brings out the best. You show me excellence, you show me any paradigm shift, and I will show you that it was preceded by some form of pressure and some form of vacuum and void. So I want to conclude my few words. I'll conclude after the questions, but just in this segment, I want to say, began with Kashayano Esam Kain Yirba V'chein Yifritz. As they were oppressed, they became stronger and greater and flourished and thrived. We have many strengths inside of us that I assure you probably have never seen the light of day. This is the time when they could emerge because we're challenged. We have to be creative now. We have to find new ways to be Jews, new ways to celebrate Pesach, new ways to calm and empower our children. And it's not a small matter. You think that way, you're challenged that way, you'll see new strengths emerge. It may even surprise you. And I find that to be an extremely powerful element because that will remain with us. We all want it to go back to normal, but we hope it'll be a new normal, a more compassionate one and a deeper one, where we understand that the deepest strengths we have is our soul and our neshama. And this challenge can bring out those strengths in the deepest possible way. You are parents. You are guardians. God gave you a gift, your families, your children, like a gardener. We didn't create our family. God created our families. He gave us gifts. We are now charged to rise to the occasion with the challenges around us and our gardens being threatened. There are weeds out there. It's called viruses and the fears and everything else that comes with it. We are challenged to protect our garden and to make sure it thrives, to nurture it. Definitely not to succumb to any of the negative. This is what we are. So, whoever thought of that context? We almost took it for granted. Now we are. Now every day counts. You're with your family. That's where you are. That's where God wants you to be. I have no doubt if we take that attitude and approach and we use the gifts we were given, the gifts of our own minds, our hearts, our creativity, and the gift of Pesach and the gift of marching toward Pesach. The preparations to Pesach are not just preparing the foods and cleaning the house. It's also preparing our souls and our children's souls to a real Pesach, to everything that is not about arrogance. Chametz is arrogance. Matzah is humility. We've been humbled. You go on and on. I assure you, I just gave some examples. Pesach is replete. It's filled with answers to the challenges of our time. And make a Pesach, as I said, like never before. So this generation and this day, we'll be able to envision and demonstrate to God. We don't know your plans, but let me tell you what we did. We rose to the occasion and we celebrated a Pesach that hasn't been seen, 3,332 years. That would be pretty much something. And let's see if God does not respond. And perhaps, as we're promised, that B'Nisan Nigalu, in Nisan we were redeemed, and we will be redeemed in this month as well with the Geula, Hamitis V'Ashlema, a healthy world. We will all experience complete health, but not just health, but in a way like as if this never happened and we only grew from it, and really experience the full healing of the entire world, not just the Jewish people, for everyone who needs healing, and healing on every possible level, and become a greater people for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson, for the very positive and uplifting message, as well as the practical suggestions for our families. I'm just going to pass it on to Mrs. Carly Namdar, who's going to just moderate a couple of questions. I think one.
You want me to do any of the questions you sent me, or you want to moderate? Whatever you.
I'll just. We're receiving a bunch of questions here, so thank you so much for sending them in. We'll start with the first question. We see so many parallels to Yetziat Mitzrayim and the Zman of Geula. So many signs that Mashiach is coming. How do we, and this ties in with what you just mentioned, how do we balance the hopes that all this suffering is part of Bias HaMashiach with the possible reality that life may just go on and we will never understand this?
Okay, it's an excellent question, and welcome to the club. We all have this question. How we maintained Ani Mamin, that we complete faith in every year. We say Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim, even when things were not easy. And we continue, any cynic or skeptic can say, hey, the Jews have been doing this for thousands of years. Who says it's not just going to go on? So I'll just respond. I have two voices inside of me as well. We all have that weaker voice. That's more like the skeptic, the cynic. As the more things change, the more they stay the same. But I cannot deny, and I think this is very vital, especially in a time like this. Look, Hashem made a promise to a single man and woman. They were called Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu. They lived, as I said, 3,800 years ago. Hashem made a promise. What was the promise? That one day you will have a nation that will be spread all over the world like the stars in heaven. Now, Avram and Sarah, just envision this, didn't even have one child yet. Yitzchak wasn't born. And then a miracle happened. Yitzchak was born. Yitzchak had a son, Yaakov. Yaakov had the tribes. They went through their travails. Then Mitzrayim. You tell me, if you were an actuary, a mathematician, a scientist, what are the odds that God's promise would have been fulfilled 3,800 years ago? That they would have a child at old age. That child would not just survive, would have another child. With all that we went through, I look at it that every one of you, every one of us is a living miracle. We just don't appreciate it because we take for granted. So if you ask me, the odds are the promise was fulfilled then. We are now all over the world, a thriving nation. Look at Eretz Yisrael. Look at places like Russia, the renaissance of Jewish life there. Look at America, what America was like in the 20s and 30s and what it is now. So I would say, even if I was a betting man, I would say the odds are pretty good because 3,800 years, nobody has survived. The Romans are long gone. The Spanish are long gone. The Persians are long gone. The Greeks, the Egyptians. So my answer is this. Yes, there's a part in our mind that says maybe things will go, but we have to take the attitude that it's up to us to do something about it. We have to behave like winners. There was a custom, I want to just add this. There was a custom in olden days that when they went to war, there were armies that when they marched to war, the first march, they would march with a victory march. Now tell me, they didn't even fight the first battle. Why are they having a victory march? Because they are totally confident. You ever see the pep talk that any coach gives his team or in an army? Because if you're not confident that we'll reach the destination, you can't fight with full courage, with full strength. We Jews are confident. We've seen miracles in the past, and when we have endured and we've survived and we've grown. So we believe absolutely that the story is going to have an end, that God is running the show, and just as God has a plan, the plan will be realized. It's called Mashiach. Do we have doubts? We have doubts. You can express your doubts, no problem. But don't make an argument that you are absolutely convinced that it can't happen, because, as I said, in retrospect, things worked out. We're limping and we're challenged, but we're here. And that cannot be denied. The promise was fulfilled, and the promise will be fulfilled. And we just have to feed that faith and be around people that have that element of faith. Use Pesach. Remember, the matzah is considered to be food of faith. Michla de mamnusa. It's experiences. Behave like a faithful person. Behave like a good person, and you become a good person. We can always make an argument for being selfish and narcissistic. We have to fight the cause the other way around. That's what the Jews always did, and that's what we need to do today.
Okay, thank you very much. There's quite a few questions coming in. I think you might have mentioned this already, but I'm just gonna share it. How should we handle the likely disappointment of our children who for their entire lives have spent their Sedarim surrounded by their families and multiple generations of family and cousins, and now they're just going to be with their immediate family, almost just like a typical Shabbos dinner? I mean, of course, this is, you know, considering the sensitivity of realizing that many are dealing with circumstances beyond their control. But how should we talk to our children in light of that?
I would be very direct and blunt about it. Hashem runs the world. Hashem decided that we'll be now isolated in an island. Let's say you had big plans and you were traveling to Israel for Pesach. And then your plane ends up stranded in some island. You're the only person on the island. That's what Hashem chose. Hashem chooses. We don't run the show. Yes, it would be beautiful to be with our families, but Hashem had a different plan this year. So we have two options. We either sit and complain and say, oh, how bad, or let us take what Hashem gave us and make this as special as possible. It's a challenge. I agree. It'd be a lot easier. But I look at it as an opportunity. Remember, let's forget about the coronavirus for a moment. You think in life, everything works out the way we like it? There are going to be setbacks. Maybe this is a great opportunity to teach our children. You know what? Sometimes it doesn't work out the way we planned it. I also said we all had different plans. But you know what? We rise to the occasion and we take what we were given and we'll make the best of it. And we're going to make it even better than ever before. And maybe, you know, I just thought of this idea when you were asking. Maybe we create a little type of like a creative project that when we say Manishtana, we keep in mind our grandparents and our other family members and like maybe even mention them. You know, find ways, whether it could be nostalgia, it could be stories. There's ways to always compensate. Ways not just to compensate, but to be creative and finding interesting, creative ways to do this. I think it's a great challenge, but I think it could be tremendously interesting. Like saying to your children, you know, right now, grandpa, grandma, they can't be here. But how can we make them present in some way? Maybe we share a story. Maybe before Pesach, you talk to them and say, let's get some message from them. I mean, I'm just, you know, randomly just rambling some ideas. But I think it's critical to know God runs the show and that our children must know. I don't see any other answer but that. And we will be the biggest simcha with that fact.
Thank you. Okay, I have another question coming in from this parent says they're a parent of a teenager. How do we approach conversations with our children about faith and hope at this time when they seem a little disenchanted, a little disinterested at this time?
Okay, well, I've addressed it throughout this evening, but I'll say it maybe and rephrase in some different words, perhaps a different language that maybe. And each of us have to adapt this in our own way. You know, let's define what the word faith and hope means. I think we also take that for granted at times. What is faith? Many people think faith is the absence of reason. It's a crutch. When nothing's working out, okay, I rely on God. I will make the argument that's not the case. Faith is a resource. Hope is a resource. When a person has hope, even when a situation may seem hopeless or may seem difficult, that's a resource. It's a tool that we have to develop. That when we're in a situation where we don't know exactly what we'll do, we dig deeper and we say, you know what? I have the confidence I can get out of this place. It's like finding the light at the end of the tunnel. So I think when children are challenged, and of course the age matters, each child in their own way, I see it no different than when you see a child come home from school and they're crying. Someone hurt them. They fell. They failed in school. Someone insulted them. In a microcosmic way, in a small way, it's the same idea. What do you tell your child? A good, healthy parent will tell the child, we all fall at times, but we pick ourselves up and we become stronger people. And you help them get through it. So I think this is really a psychological lesson in resilience. And yes, we acknowledge, we're not denying, we acknowledge what's going on. We don't ignore it, but we don't dwell on it. We'll say, okay, so how do I become stronger? You know, God forbid, a family member ends up in a hospital. And again, lo yaleinu, not today, but in regular times. And you go and you see your children say, look what they look like. They can be very shaken up. I'm not saying we take our children always, but let's say they saw that parent, that relative. You come home and you say, you know what? Sometimes a person is weaker, but then we build greater strength. And I think finding examples in a child's life, depending on the age, of how we get stronger from a situation can be very easily applied here. And really, I think we have to protect our children also from the hysteria out there. I don't think you should have the television on all the time with internet and watching every COVID-19 update. You know, these things are very frightening to adults as well. And then when there is something challenging, you make sure your children can express themselves to you. Don't silence them. Don't tell them no, everything is fine and we have Amunah in Hashem. Let them express it. Get them to express it. And then we look at how we build something from a situation. And look, Mitzrayim again, the Jews, did they suffer in Mitzrayim? Every child knows that and learns it. Let's personalize it. What did they do? How did they overcome their weakness, their suffering, and their pain?
Right. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we've got one more question coming in. Just 1 second. Let me just check the... Okay, all right. I'm going to ask this question. I think you answered some of them. We've got some questions about mobilizing our anxiety to our benefit at this time. I think we touched on that. How should we handle conversations with our children when they start blaming others and blaming God for the current situation? I think you may have touched on it, but I think it's an important question.
Okay. One of the students asked me the question, are we entitled to be angry at God?
Yeah.
So first thing I want to say is that a lot of times children pick things up from their parents. I think it's important, especially in this time, that even if we have anger to God or to whatever, we should really not express it. It's not what children need to hear right now. Now, addressing the question itself, I think we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu, and I'm going to use all examples from Mitzrayim since Pesach is coming. What did Moshe say at the end of Parsha Shmos? When he saw Pharaoh bathing in the blood of Jewish children, and he saw the oppression, he saw the pain, the suffering of his people. What does he say? He says to Hashem, Lama hiroisa la'amazeh. Why are you doing evil and being cruel to this nation? He didn't say, why are you allowing Pharaoh and the Egyptians to be cruel? He blames God, and God reprimands him. He says, you blame me. The patriarchs, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, never challenged me like that. But what happens in the next parsha? Hashem rewards him for his chutzpah. What does Hashem say? I will reveal to you my name that I have never revealed to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I will reveal to you new strengths. You challenged me. So we have to tell our children, anger can be a positive and it can be a negative. Anger and frustration that leads to only bitterness and it doesn't motivate you to be a better person is an unhealthy emotion. If, however, you feel a certain frustration and even anger and it motivates you to be a better person, then it's a positive energy. So we're entitled to be frustrated. We're entitled even to be angry, but I would say the anger has to be channeled. You know, if we're angry at the Germans and the Nazis, what they did, how do we express our anger? We don't go bomb their cafes. We bring up families. Every Nazi, every Holocaust survivor will say, my revenge? Look at my album, my photo album of my children and my grandchildren. So we take our negative energy and we turn it into positive growth. And that's what I would say I say, this is a time, it's a challenging time. We all have our frustrations, but we need to turn it into a positive force. How to become better, greater, and not become bitter and angry people that just are right now really weak and debilitated. Now, this takes work. Trust me, it's not easy. Children, you have to know how to listen to them. You have to let them express. But I think if you get the gist of it, each of us can in our own way communicate to the children. And remember, they'll learn a lot more from what you do than what you say, how you behave. We all have plenty of reason to be frustrated now, and even angry, and even really hurt. But that's why we must, there's no choice, we must rise. You know, like one person who once suffered a great tragedy told me, he said, I had two choices, to sink or to swim. And I wasn't planning to sink, so I swam. And that's what it comes down to. We have to teach our children to swim. We navigate.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson, for your incredible positivity, the wonderful messages, the practical suggestions for all of, for us, for all our Hal families, really for all Kal Yisrael in these days leading up to Pesach. And I want to thank all those who participated, all those parents and friends who tuned in. Much appreciated. To you, Mrs. Carly Namdar, thank you for organizing. Much appreciated. And everybody have a wonderful night, a Chag Kosher v'Sameach, and God willing, we'll be able to talk about and see with our own eyes the Geula Shlema b'Meira v'Yameinu. Have a good night.
Amen. Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a kosher Freilich and Pesach. It should be a truly redeeming an emancipating, transcendent Pesach like never before. And Hashem should see our efforts and bring the Geula Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim. We don't have to wait till next year. It should be now.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.